So here we go. And I just realized I forgot to plug in my speakers. Let's do this. There we go. Oh, my favorite student, good old Ann. And Cirky. I stole that from a very good math teacher and didn't make that joke up myself. Good morning! Someone coming in late. Let me just pause the video. When I made up your test, by the way, it's not, I'm calling it a test, but it's not going to be really big. I think when I make it up, it's going to be out of 40, but then we're going to divide it by 2 and make it out of like 20. So it's not going to count for much. I took this quiz, pasted it into a new document, changed the numbers, and then added a little bit more. I'll tell you lots of hints as we go. So certainly, I think the first question on the on your upcoming future quest, half quiz, half test, is going to be write in scientific notation. So it is 5.5 times 10 to the... Again, you're not counting zeros, you're counting decimal places. 10 to the 4th. It's the decimal got moved to there, 1, 2, 3, 4 spots. Don't just count the zeros. 4.2 times 10 to the negative 2. 3.64 times 10 to the negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1.236, because they didn't say anything about sig figs, so I guess I better keep everything, times 10 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then on your test, you will see some questions that involve doing some calculations with sig figs. Multiplying, thankfully, is the easy one. That's 2 sig figs. That's 2 sig figs. So I'm going to go to 2 sig figs. 7.1, scientific notation button, negative 4 times 3.6. Scientific notation button, negative 7. 2 sig figs is 1, 2. Is that 5 going to stay a 5? No. And my calculator gave this to me in scientific notation. If it didn't, I'd be able to either put it in scientific notation in my head like I did for number 1, or I showed you how if you have a decent calculator, you can also get it to do that for you. 2.6 times 10 to the negative 2.6 times 10 to the negative 10. 1.42, scientific notation button, negative 5, Mr. Dueck. Copy the question down right. Divided by 4.3, scientific notation button, negative 15. Come on, computer. Negative 15. How many sig figs am I going to here? 2. You notice this time, Robbie, I didn't write as much down. If you're at the point where you can kind of keep track of this in your head, hey, great, I'm good with that. 2 is right there. Is the 3 going to stay a 3 or become a 4? It's going to stay a 3. Now, it's going to be then, because it did say right in scientific notation, 3.3 times 10 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1 mark. Number 3. Now this time I made number 3 worth 2 marks because it is 2 marks worth of work. Adding and subtracting with scientific notation. Jaden, I don't. I'm going to write it in standard notation. This is 0.006. And by the way, since there's a 0 there, I better put a 0 there because they did attach it for some reason. Plus 0.00035. Now, Mr. Dueck said, write them vertically, line them up. 0.00060 plus 0.00035. Dueck said, add them up before you round off. I'll add them up in scientific notation because that's easier. I get that. 0.00635. Now, what am I going to round to? Well, the first place where I have a gap is right there, so I'm going to round right to there. Is the 3 going to stay a 3 or become a 4? It's going to become a 4, so I'm going to write this as 0.0064 in scientific notation 6.4 times 10 to the negative 3? That's a tough question. I would give you 1 mark for the 6.4 and then 1 mark for the times 10 to the negative 3. Hopefully all of you got the times 10 to the negative 3 part, even if you did the sig figgy part wrong, so you should get something. I hope. Maybe you got it. Convert. All right, Dueck says write down what they give you. 3 seconds. And then I want seconds to cancel, and I want to end up in milliseconds, so I'll put that on the top, except this is nonsense. This is wrong. And I think I lost a few of you, or maybe I didn't do a good job of explaining this conversion process. Here's what I'm really saying. This says milliseconds. This has to say milliseconds as well, except I don't want to put a milli. I want to put the number that milli represents, the 10 to the, what does milli represent? 10 to the, and it goes in front of the base unit. It goes where you don't have a metric prefix. That's how you can figure out, does it go on the top or on the bottom? And because it's on the bottom, am I going to times or am I going to divide? It's going to be divided by, and I think you're going to get 3,000 milliseconds. Did anybody write that in scientific notation? Didn't say you had to, but did anybody? So 3 times 10 to the 3? 3.0. I didn't say anything about sig figs. 3.0 times 10 to the 3. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah, I got it wrong.
Oh, okay. If you forgot the units, half mark off. Sorry. Now, why am I not so fussy with sig figs here? Because, well, see, the problem is that 10 technically is how many sig figs? Technically. 10. How many sig figs is that technically? 1. Except I know because these are defined values, it's actually 10.00000000 because it's exact. So for unit conversions, I kind of ignore the siggy fig thing and just not going to worry about it. You okay? Good, Jan? You back? Number 2, going to be a 2-step because I'm going from kilo to milli. I'm going to need a bit more room. You know what? I'm going to do 2b over here. Or sorry, 4b over here. 25 kilograms. I want kilograms to cancel, grams on top. Because the first step is get rid of kilograms, except I can't just do that. Grams is 10 to the, kilo is 10 to the 3rd. Now I want to get rid of the grams. Boy, am I seeing yawns everywhere. Like I'm looking down a bunch of throats every time I look around the classroom, not mentioning any names. Grams goes there. Milligrams goes there, but I want to replace the milli with a 10 to the negative 3 there. I think you're going to get a 25 and 6 zeros. I'm doing it in my head. 25 with 6 zeros. You know what? It's less work now to write it in scientific notation, so this time I will. 2.5 times 10 to the 7th milligrams, or 2, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 milligrams. 25 million milligrams. 1 year into seconds. Write down what they gave me. Do I know how many seconds are in a year? Haven't memorized that, haven't bothered. What I have memorized, without even meaning to, is that there are 365 days in 1 year. And what I have memorized, without really meaning to, is that there's 24 hours in 1 day. And what I have memorized, without really meaning to, is that, now I've memorized that there's 3,600 seconds in 1 hour, and if you have memorized that, feel free. It's kind of a convenient shortcut that I've kind of picked up. But if you didn't, that's not a problem either. You could go to minutes and say 60, and then you could cancel minutes and say 60. By the way, the 3,600 comes from the 60 times 60 at the very, very end there. I kind of picked up on that. Anyways, it's going to be 365 times 24 times 60 squared. I've seen this number before because I think I asked you the same question in your homework. On your test, I'll probably say instead of doing 1 year into seconds, I might do like 5 years into hours, or 5 years into minutes, or 7 years into, but something like that. Okay, 3153600 31536 and 3 zeros. 31536 and 3 zeros, and that's seconds. Did everybody scientific notation that one? Yeah. 3.1536 times 10 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? I would keep everything because I don't know anything about sig figs. And again, because you could also say 1 is 1 sig fig, but I think in this question we would say that's exactly 1 year. That's really 1.00000000000, as many sig figs as you want. So for unit conversion, James, I kind of ignore the sig figs. You can give yourself a little score out of 11 if you want. Next page over. I think on your test, before you come to this, I think the next question on the test gives you, I think, 4 numbers and all, or maybe 5, and all I ask you, Nat, is how many sig figs? How many sig figs? How many sig figs? How many sig figs? How many? Most kids get 4 out of 4 or 5 out of 5 on that one. Although I'm also on there going to put all the weird, tricky ones in one. In other words, the ones that involve zeros in all the different locations. So make sure you're clear on those. Okay. Then I think you'll turn the page on your test. Quest, whatever we're calling it, and then there's a bunch of do some more math with sig figs. I think it's 3 times divide and 3 add subtract, or it might be 4 times divide and 4 add subtract. I'm going from memory, I can't remember. But it's not going to be add subtract with scientific notation. Divide with scientific notation, sure, because that's pretty, but add subtract. In fact, I think scientific notation means makes the multiplication division easier because you can just see at a glance how many sig figs there are. The thing in front. Right. Anyways, 3, 2 sig figs. 0.63. Did anybody write that in scientific notation? No? Good. 6.3 times 10 to negative 1. 3 sig figs. 9, Mr. Dueck. Nice typing. 3.94. By the way, the other reason I've gone on my big calculator rant, Ariel, is if you have one, especially has a 2-line display, you get in the habit before you ever hit enter, you always stop, look at what you wrote, look at what you typed, and check for typos. Because one of the big mistakes in Physics 12, we'll be typing stuff in like yay long. We just will. One of the big mistakes is typos. Time and time again, I'll mark a kid's test. They've written everything down correctly. Wrong answer. And that's why also it's worth getting a calculator that you can interpret. One of the things I'm going to try and build in you this year, Cam, is you're going to get good at your calculators. You're going to understand, when do I need brackets? When don't I need brackets? When are they optional? When do I use them even if they're optional, just because it keeps me from making dumb mistakes? That kind of a deal. How many sig figs? 3, 202? Is that right? 3 sig figs, 4 sig figs, 3 sig figs, 4.37. What did I say? 3 sig figs. 5, 1, there. Is the 0 going to stay a 0 or become a 1? So you could either write 5, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0. This is right around where I might go scientific notation. So some of you may have written 5.11 times 10 to the 5th. Let's see. 1, 2, 3 characters. 1 on my writing it 1, 2, 3, 4 characters. So I don't know. It's right around the even Steven mark. Oh, adding and subtracting. Dueck says write them vertically. And again, some of you have told me that you can actually do these in your head and get the right sig figs. Then great. On a test, I'd probably still write them vertically just to be paranoid. In my homework, I'll be honest, I can do these in my head about it. I really can. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8. It looks like my first guess is right there. So I'm going to go 38.002 plus 0.12378. My first guess is I'm going to round right to there. I'm going to round right to there. 5 or a 6? 38.126. Yes? I hope. Subtracting. It's going to be the same deal. 512.06. Take away. Make sure I don't forget to subtract. 65.2. You can see my first guess is there, so I'm going to round to there. 512.06, take away 65.2. I'm going to round to one decimal place. The 8's going to become a 9. 446.9. Number 6. Is that right? Yeah. I like this question. I like number 6. I like this question. Why would I say that? Did you hear me say that? You're the kind of student who tends to notice when a teacher emphasizes certain things. Good for you. Okay. There's going to be some kind of a question where there's a big, long chain. I think I'll even be more specific. I think on your test, because I used animals here, and I did the horrible wife question in the homework, I think I started making up words. I think I use wubbas, W, yontas, Y, zubbas, Z. I wanted you to be able to just use letters of the alphabet. In fact, I just made up nonsense. But in their question, you'll see like 10 zubbas are worth 5 yontas or something. I don't know, something like that. You can build a chain, trust me. Okay, you can. So my ESL students, those won't be real words anyway, so you should be good, I hope. Always write down. Now, the tricky part is figuring out what we're starting with. This one was a little easier. I think in your homework, it was tougher to figure out what we were starting with the terrible wife question that Mr. Dueck made up. 48. What would be a clever abbreviation for parrots? Sure, why not? I want parrots to cancel. Please tell me that I have a conversion factor for parrots. Oh, yeah. Apparently, 1 zebra is 5 parrots. Now I want zebras to cancel. Well, apparently, 1 zebra is worth 8 monkeys. Now I want monkeys to cancel. 6 monkeys are worth 1 gorilla. Now I want gorillas to cancel. Apparently, 5 gorillas are worth 2. Why would that be dumb to write as my abbreviation for lions? Yeah, when I come back later, I'm going to type 21 in like an idiot. I don't want to do that. So whenever I have to use an L, I'll always do that. Or you could use a capital L. That'd be fine, because that looks like liters, and I recognize that because that is a metric. But we're making up stuff here anyways. I think it's going to be 48 times 8 times 2 divided by 5 divided by 6 divided by 5. 48 times 8 times 2 divided by, hey, how about I'll be clever, 5 squared and divided by 6, because since there's 2 5s on the bottom. I don't think this one worked out evenly. Yeah, 5.12. 5.12 what? You know what? When I did this last class, I wrote parrots and then I caught myself. It is lion. Now, I'm not going to freak out about the units on this question, but I will write lions. So apparently 5.12 lions, or if you're a dentist from Minnesota, apparently your entire life and your business and going to high, you read about that in the summer, Cecil the lion or whatever, right? He shot a beloved lion or something like that. How would I mark this? First of all, if you got the 5.12, 3 out of 3, I don't care how you got there, as long as you didn't cheat. Okay, so 3 marks. Otherwise, I would then go back. If you didn't have 5.2, I would give you 1 mark if you had written down what we started with. I kid you not. I will reward you for following my method. Okay? I would give you 1 mark if you tried building a chain, even if you didn't finish the chain, even if your chain was wrong because you had maybe parrots on the top instead of on the bottom or something. But if you tried building a chain, I would give you 1 mark because you said, I know the method I'm supposed to use. In other words, you can pass this question. You can get 2 out of 3 if you, and I will do that throughout most of the year. If I haven't told you this already, I'll say it now. Taylor, the only thing that will ever tick me off on a test is if you leave a question blank. You're going to find a big part of my teaching style is almost always going to be, what are we going to write down? And we always have a starting point. We write stuff down. Then we go further. And also it gets our creative juices flowing. It reduces your angst level because the question is no longer blank and intimidating. So the only time I kind of get grumpy is if someone leaves it totally blank, then I say, boy, you must not have done the homework at all. You got to try. Got to try. And then 1 mark for the answer. Graphing. Excuse me. 4 equations. In fact, I know these are all 4 lines. How was I able to just glance at this and say, yeah, those are lines? Yeah, no squares, exponents, weird stuff. And in fact, in 3 of them, A, B, and D, the Y is by itself. I'll have to do a little work with C. Let's do A first. I'll do A in black. 1, 2, 3, a y-intercept of -4. What's the slope here? What is the number that's in front of the x? It's invisible. So I'm going to count how? Up 1 over, I did that on purpose because sometimes kids are like, well, it's over 2, but what's in front? Oh, yeah, 1. Up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. Hang on, Mr. Dueck, no freehanding. Get your ruler out. Here we go. Each of these is worth 1 mark. If you got it right, great. Otherwise, I would give you a half mark if you got the y-intercept right, or a half mark if you got the slope right. And I'll label that line A. B. I'll do that in red. A y-intercept of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Slope of down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. Yes, tongue helps. I got this from my dad. One of my earliest memories, I'm about 3 years old. We had a cabin near 100 Mile House in the interior. I'm 3 years old, and my dad's 6'4". You know, when you're 3, your dad's your big hero. And he was chainsawing firewood. And when he would chainsaw downwards through the log, and then he would chainsaw upwards through the log, and then down, and then up. And this is one of my earliest memories. As a 3-year-old, I'm watching my dad fascinated as he's chainsawing, and I'm seeing the tongue go this way when he was chainsawing downwards, and this way when he was chainsawing. He controls the chainsaw with his tongue. I still remember that conclusion as a 3-year-old, and for like 5 or 6 years, I thought that's how somehow you would do that, and the chainsaw would move. You know, it's one of my earliest memories. Okay. You know, what do you figure out when you're 3? You know, you haven't got the scientific method down pat or anything. Cam, can I graph C right now as is? Actually, but believe it or not, if you're good, you can. I can actually do a lot of these in my head just by trying points really quickly because I'm good at mental math. But let's get the y by itself. And I've told you, Cam, and I'm really going to push you folks to get good at doing math in your head this year. I'm going to argue, James, as far as I'm concerned, if you do that, that's enough to show me that you moved it over. And why did I do that? I don't like y's to be negative. If the y wasn't negative, I would have just minus the x over. But I don't like y's to be negative, and I'm going to do that. I think that's enough to get you to this. You know what? I'll do this in blue. Here, the 3x would drop down. There'd be a -4, and there'd be a 2y. Now, I know this bugs some of you because you're like, I want the y to be on the left-hand side. Oh, it is. Just flip it in your head. 2y equals 3x minus 4. It is on the left side. I just happen to write it on the right side. I want you to get used to realizing that we can be flexible with equations. How would I get the y by itself? I am perfectly fine if you do that, because I didn't say in this question, give me the equation. I said graph the stupid thing. So graph it. Y-intercept is -2. Slope is up 3 over 2, up 3 over 2, up 3 over 2, up 3 over 2. What's weird about line D? No, it does have a slope. Even more obvious, what's missing? Okay, no x, okay? So what would make an x vanish? What number would you put in front of an x to make it completely vanish if you were multiplying? I'm not going to say no slope. It does have a slope. But the slope is, as a number value, what? 0, which is different, because no slope is actually considered vertical. It's not. This is a horizontal line. This is one you want to... Did I hear a phone go off, by the way? Thought I did. Okay. This is a horizontal line. This is one you want to become familiar with. In physics, this shows up very often. If there's a constant velocity, it'll be a horizontal line. If there's a constant acceleration, it'll be a horizontal line. If it's a constant force, it'll be a horizontal line. If something is a constant, unchanging, in fact, we call this the constant function. It's going to be a horizontal line. How high? 6 high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. And it's going to look like this. D. Number 8, find the equation in slope-intercept form. Now, before I go further, This is very similar to your upcoming test, except the very last question on your test, I haven't put one like this on the quiz. I'm going to give you some data in a chart. I'm going to give you a blank graph. I'm going to say graph the data. You'll have to pick a good scale on the x-axis. You'll have to label the x-axis. You'll have to pick a good scale on the y-axis. You'll also have to label the y-axis. You'll have to put a title. When you put the dots on, I'll cook the data so that it lines up pretty nice, Derek, so it's pretty obvious what the line of best fit is. You'll use your ruler to draw the line of best fit, and then you're gonna find the equation. So instead of me giving you the line like this, I'm gonna make you create the line, and then go on from here. Line A is this one. The y-intercept is -5. The slope is up 1. Oh, I'm done. Up 1 over 1. You could put a 1 there, but is the 1 really necessary? So how would I mark this? I would give you a half mark for the correct y-intercept. I would give you a half mark for the correct slope. However, I would be mean. I would take a half mark off if you hadn't written a y or an x. In other words, often I'll see kids do that. Well, no, that's 1 take away 5. That's -4. Please clue in. There's an x there. Line B, y-intercept is +5. And I do that right away just to make sure I caught that this is downhill, this slope is negative. And I'll start right there. And it looks like my next nice point is right there. What's the rise? 3. Now, on your test, make sure that you don't just count squares. These are going up by 1, but on your test, they often, on the graph that you, the data that you create, it probably won't be going up by 1s. So it's going to be down 3 and over 2. And don't forget an x there. Half mark for the +5, half mark for the -3 over 2. And then make sure you have the x and the y there. Could you give yourself a lovely score out of, count 'em, 25? Am I live again? Okay. Last day, your homework was conversions. If you want to hand this in today, you can. I'm not going to look at it this weekend because since you have a test next class, my thing is always the period before a class. Don't hand anything in. Hang on to it to study from if you want. Or if you absolutely are certain that you're not going to need this to study from, feel free to hand it in. I'm just not going to look at it this weekend, trust me. If you did hand it in already and you haven't got it back and you want it to study from, you can grab it from block B back there and then just hand it in again on Monday when I see you come the day of the test. Were there any of these that you were going, holy schmoly, Mr. Dueck, I have no idea how the heck you're getting these questions? Now is your chance to ask. So if you haven't finished, I'm still going to have my little answer key. I think I got 1, 2, 3. 3 of the 4 are still kicking around. I can always print up one more if you need it. I tried to show all my steps and all my work on there. And what I have for you then today is a study guide, a little unit review. But I also have a video. So on the study guide that I gave you, it's got some sig figs, some unit conversion. First of all, can you look at number 4 on the front? Number 4 says find the area of a rectangle. How do you find the area of a rectangle? It's length times width. All I'm saying is multiply those two together, but do it properly with sig figs. Instead of just giving you something like up here, let's give you an application. So for an area. Anyways, the answer key. My iPod question's kind of cool. So I stole this from the internet. Here's a locked iPod. Try again in 22,236,390 minutes. You can figure out how long it's going to take to unlock your iPod. But Dueck made a bunch of mistakes on the answer key. So I'm just going to freeze the screen here. You need to change near the top line, 1D, the -10 is a -9. You need to change where it says sig figs 1H. It's not a 1, it's a 3, Dueck, because you put a decimal there. Eesh. And unit conversions F is 1.45 minutes. And unit conversions H is 432 kilometers per hour. I think that's all the mistakes, but if you find more, there's a candy for every mistake that you find, because I've been giving them out like candy. Oh, I guess I would be. This is due the day of the test. The only thing that I didn't put on here, It says, look at quiz 2, make sure you can graph a line given the equation, and make sure you can find an equation given a line. Make sure you can graph data, find a line of best fit. Okay? Class is yours.